Curtis Martin rushed for 14,101 yards. That puts him in the same sentence as Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, and Barry Sanders. He started his career with 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons, something only Barry Sanders had ever done before him. He won the rushing title at 31 years old, the oldest player in NFL history to do it. He made 5 Pro Bowls, scored 100 touchdowns, and was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2012. And most casual fans couldn't have picked him out of a lineup. No flashy celebrations, no ESPN beef, no Madden cover, just 3,518 carries, more patience than any linebacker ever wanted to test, and a legacy so quiet it nearly slipped through the cracks of NFL history. So that begs the question, how good was Curtis Martin? Actually, he never even wanted to play football. Curtis James Martin Jr. was born May 1st, 1973, on the south side of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. By the time he was 3 years old, his father had walked out the door, addicted to cocaine and alcohol, gone. His mother, Rochella, was left alone to raise him, working 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. They moved from neighborhood to neighborhood across Pittsburgh, chasing whatever they could afford, always landing somewhere rough. By the time Curtis was a teenager, violence wasn't something he read about. It was something he lived inside. His grandmother was found murdered, stabbed in the chest. 30 of his friends would be dead before he graduated. And at 15 years old, a man pressed a loaded gun against his head and pulled the trigger 7 times. The gun never fired. Curtis didn't expect to see 21. He wasn't a football kid. He wasn't sitting in front of the TV on Sunday afternoons dreaming about the NFL. He played basketball as a sophomore. He skipped sports entirely as a junior. It was his mother, desperate to keep him away from the streets, who pushed him onto a football field his senior year of high school. He went reluctantly. He had no love for the game. But the moment he stepped onto the field, something happened. Head coach Mark Whitgartner took one look and said he had natural abilities far above any back he'd coached before. In that single senior season, Martin ran for 1,705 yards and 20 touchdowns. 1 year, never played before, leading rusher in the City League. The University of Pittsburgh came calling and Curtis stayed close to home. When he arrived on campus, coaches compared him to Tony Dorsett, the Pittsburgh legend who had come through the same program. The expectations were enormous, but injuries had other plans. A shoulder, an ankle, missed games, missed seasons. His college career was never what it was supposed to be. By his senior year, he ran for 251 yards in the opener against Texas, then got hurt the very next week and never came back. When he declared for the 1995 NFL Draft, people said it was a mistake. He was coming off a lost season. He was unproven on a big stage. Scouts called him a 3rd-round pick at best. He wasn't supposed to be special. But then, Bill Parcells and the New England Patriots made the call. And when they did, Curtis Martin turned to everyone in the room and said, "Oh my God, I do not want to play football." But he played anyway. And he played like he had something to prove to the game that never meant that much to him. In week 1 of his rookie season, Martin took his first NFL carry 30 yards, scored the game-winning touchdown, became the first Patriots player ever to rush for 100 yards on debut. And he kept going. 9 100-yard games that season, a rookie record tied. He finished the year as the AFC's leading rusher with 1,487 yards and 14 touchdowns. Offensive Rookie of the Year, first Pro Bowl All-AFC. He barely knew if he liked the sport. He was already one of the best running backs in the league. In 1996, he backed it up. 1,152 yards, 14 more touchdowns, and then in the playoffs, he went home to Pittsburgh and destroyed the Steelers. 166 yards, 3 touchdowns, including a 78-yard score. One of the longest touchdown runs in playoff history. The Patriots marched all the way to the Super Bowl. Then they lost to Green Bay. But no one could say Curtis Martin wasn't ready for the moment. Here's the thing about those early Patriots years. He had one of the greatest coaches in NFL history standing over him. Bill Parcells was demanding, hard, old school. He shaped Martin into a pro, He taught him the weight of the game, and Martin soaked it in. But after 1997, everything changed. Martin was a restricted free agent. The Jets, now coached by the same Bill Parcells who had just left New England, dangled a 6-year, $36 million offer sheet in front of him with a poison pill built in. The contract was structured so the Patriots couldn't safely match it without risking losing Martin for nothing a year later. New England blinked. They let him walk. In return, they got a first and third round pick. Those picks eventually helped build the Patriots into a dynasty, but at the time, it looked like they just handed away the best running back in the AFC. Martin reunited with Parcells in New York and delivered immediately. In 1998, he carried the Jets to their first AFC East title since 1968, the first division crown since before the NFL-AFL merger. He ran for 1,287 yards, gave the offense something it hadn't had in years, and in the playoffs against Jacksonville in the Jets' first home playoff game in 12 years, he touched the ball 42 times, gained 182 yards from scrimmage, and scored twice. The Jets rolled 34-24. They made it all the way to the AFC Championship before Denver knocked them out. But for the Jets fans who sat through years of nothing, this felt like something. And that something had Curtis Martin's footprints all over it. He was consistent the way a metronome is consistent. Year after year, game after game. 1999, 1,464 yards. 2000, he ran for a personal best 203 yards against Indianapolis in a single game. 2001, 1,513 yards. So close to winning the Russian title that he came up just 43 yards short of Priest Holmes' mark at the end of the season. 2002 and 2003, over 1,000 yards each. Never flashy, never making you hold your breath, just delivering. By this point, Martin was in his late 20s, running behind offensive lines that rotated for teams that shuffled quarterbacks through seasons that ended in disappointment. He never complained. He never pointed fingers. He just lined up and ran the ball. There's a reason his teammates talked about him the way that they did. Not the loudest in the locker room, not the guy demanding the ball. Just the guy you could always count on when nothing else was working. And then came 2004. Curtis Martin was 31 years old. His body had absorbed nearly a decade of NFL punishment. Running backs his age didn't win rushing titles. They held clipboards, or they faded out of the league quietly, or they ended up on the back end of a committee. Martin didn't get the memo. Week 1 against Cincinnati, 196 rushing yards. He set the tone for the entire season in one afternoon, and he never let up. 9 more 100-yard rushing games that year. He ran for 153 yards in the regular season finale at St. Louis. And when the final standings were settled, Curtis Martin had rushed for 1,697 yards, 1 more yard than Shaun Alexander, the closest margin in NFL history. He won the NFL rushing title at 31 years old, the oldest player to ever do it. The FedEx Ground Player of the Year award, first team All-Pro, 5th Pro Bowl. And when people looked up to their screens, they realized something. This man was creeping up the all-time rushing list. Dorsett was behind him. Jim Brown was behind him. Eric Dickerson was behind him. With Emmitt Smith's retirement after that season, Martin became the active leader in career rushing yards. He was chasing names that didn't feel catchable. What made Martin so hard to appreciate in real time was how he did it. There were no Bo Jackson moments, no broken tackle highlight reel you'd see looped on SportsCenter. His game was patience. He was a rhythm runner. Wait for the crease, accelerate through it, pick up what the defense gives you, protect the football. He didn't need 5 yards on every carry. He needed 50 carries over 4 hours. He needed to still be on the field in the fourth quarter when the defense was exhausted. His body type didn't intimidate anyone. 5'11", 210 pounds. He looked like a nickelback trying to play running back. But the cuts were precise. The vision was calm. And the toughness was the kind you can't measure because he never made a big deal out of it. Then the knee went. In week 2 of the 2005 season, Miami linebacker Zach Thomas accidentally kicked Martin in the knee. He tried to play through it. He always tried to play through it. But it happened again 2 weeks later, Same knee, a second kick, and this time the damage was real. He played out the year because, of course, he did, but he was running on pain he wouldn't talk about. 735 yards in a down season, career lows across the board. On November 27, 2005, he joined Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, and Barry Sanders as the only running backs in history to rush for 14,000 career yards. He hit the milestone limping. He started in 2006 on the physically unable to perform list. By November, it was official. Bone on bone in the right knee. Season over. His streak of 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons, the one only Barry Sanders had ever matched, was over. He tried to come back in 2007, but his body wouldn't cooperate. On July 26, 2007, Curtis Martin officially retired from the NFL. 14,101 rushing yards, 3,518 carries, 100 touchdowns. The fourth highest rushing total in NFL history at the time. The Jets retired his number, 28. The Hall of Fame came calling in 2012. At his induction, he stood at the podium without a single note in his hand, and he told the crowd everything they didn't know about a man who had been hiding in plain sight for 11 seasons. He talked about the streets of Pittsburgh, about his grandmother, about the gun against his head, about a deal he made with God at 20 years old when he didn't think he'd survive to see 21. About how football wasn't the point, it was the vehicle, the way out. The way to do something for his mother, for his community, for the people who never caught a break. So how good was Curtis Martin actually? On paper, the numbers make the argument for you. He's one of the 6 players in NFL history to rush for over 14,000 yards. He and Barry Sanders are the only 2 running backs to start their careers with 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He won a rushing title at 31, older than any man who had done it before. He logged 57 career 100-yard games. He carried the ball more times than almost anyone in league history and fumbled it less than anyone who touched it that often. But what the numbers miss is the context. He did all of this while never playing for an offensive powerhouse. The Jets were rarely a top-tier team during his time there. He didn't have a dominant offensive line in his prime. He didn't have an elite quarterback forcing defenses to respect the pass. He was the offense, season after season, and defenses knew it. And they came anyway, and he ran through them anyway. He was the blueprint for what it looks like to succeed in the NFL on pure fundamentals. No gimmicks, no scheme advantages, just footwork, patience, and the decision made a long time ago that if he was going to do the thing he never asked for, he was going to do it all the way. The league moved on quickly in those years. Stars burned bright and faded. Martin just stayed, year after year, quietly adding to a total that only 4 men in the history of the sport had ever surpassed. And in the end, the quiet was the point. He didn't need the hype. He never wanted it. He just wanted a reason to keep going, and every Sunday lining up in the backfield with the crowd noise and the hits and the fourth quarter grind, he found it. So when you ask how good Curtis Martin was, the answer isn't really about rushing yards or Pro Bowls. It's about a kid from Pittsburgh who was never supposed to make it out, who picked up a football because his mother begged him to, who never fell in love with the game, and who despite all of that, maybe because all of that, became one of the greatest to ever carry it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this one, hit the like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you never miss a video from Old School Sundays. I'll see you in the next one.